How do you do? So today's session I was thinking of diving into from a workflow point of view into different digital audio workstations and see what they are missing or where they are lagging behind with other digital audio workstations. So let's get going with the different digital audio workstations and see what, in my opinion, they lack and what I would like to see in those digital audio workstations when comparing them to each another. All right, let's get going. Alrighty, let's firstly look into Ableton Live. So as we know, Ableton is working with 12.3, where they will bring stem separation and then splice integration, like certain features that you have already in Studio One or Pro Tools or Logic Pro, specifically the stem separation. But in my eyes and in my opinion, what Ableton is lacking still a lot from other digital audio workstations is to do a proper keyboard mapping and keyboard shortcuts. And I'm not now talking about the fact that I'm able to go here and then select and for example this key and map it into T for a keyboard. And key. This is not the thing that usually is what is meant with this one. Of course, within a project you can do these mappings and you can store these into your templates and things like that. But it's not the same. For example, I still can't have a keyboard shortcut assigned to this wrench that I always need to go here and click that small icon in order to open the plugin that I would like to open. Of course, I can also do different things there, but still in my workflow and my point of view, I would prefer to have a keyboard shortcut to map that. And there are other things as well I could also bring in, like if I have used, for example, Logic Pro X before, and then I come into Ableton. I'm familiar with the keyboard shortcuts from Logic Pro, and I would like to bring them here, but I can't. And that is something that usually, digital audio workstations have. And I will show that from a Logic Pro point of view. I could use others as well, like Studio One or Pro Tools or Cubase or Bitwig even. They all have this feature, but I'll just demonstrate one thing from the Logic Pro in this case. All right, so Logic example regarding on the keyboard mapping. And as said, multiple digital audio workstations support this, but Ableton doesn't in this scope. And here I can go into the keyboard commands and I can go and edit assignments. Then I can search different type of keyboard mappings that I have done, but basically they list all the functionalities that are kind of in a DAW, different type of actions that you can then map into. And let's do a simple thing like if I'm quite often opening and closing, for example, these plugins. Instead of going into clicking the mouse, I would like to do that with the keyboard shortcut. So what I can do in Logic and few others as well, I go to the keyboard key commands, edit assignment, and then I can find, for example, open, scroll down. Then I see that open, close audio insert plugin window in a focus track, and I have done already this mapping. So you basically go over there. And then you do the mapping, like you can go over there, you can clean it in a way, and then you just press the keyboard to enter the keyboard command. And then you have it mapped. So this is quite simple, trivial, but for some reason Ableton doesn't support this. And what does this now mean is that when I'm here, I can easily basically then say that, with the keyboard command, I don't need to use mouse. I can open the second, the third, the fourth, and so on. So all the plugins can be opened from a keyboard command, and I don't need to use mouse for that. And I can also open them in a different order that I want to see them, and then close them as well. So that's an example of like utilizing keyboard shortcuts of making your workflow faster and dealing, for example, with plugins. But you can use that for many and any type of a thing. All right. Okay, so another thing that is missing from Ableton is ARA support, kind of an audio random access. And what does mean and where it actually becomes handy, I will show you regarding on that. So for example, if I would like to work with my vocals and I'm bringing in Melodyne into that track, and then now I would like to get editing the audio immediately within my Melodyne or any other plugin that uses this ARA function, and I will actually put a sticker into the screen so you can see that what the ARA means, but also you can dig it out further. But this is a concrete example on that, what does it mean. So in order to now start working here with the vocal, I need to actually press the transfer, I need to record it, and I don't have a real-time access into it. So I will actually use a Studio One to demonstrate this feature. Here is one of the digital audio workstations that support ARA and feature. There are others like Cubase and Pro Tools and few others, but there are still ones that are missing it. But what that means in practice, I will show now, because you can't do that in Ableton because it doesn't support. But what you can do here in Studio One is that you can go and click over here, and then you press like keyboard command, or you kind of go into the menus, you go into the audio, and you say that edit with Melodyne. Bam! And I have everything now here that I can start immediately editing it. I don't need to record, I don't need to wait 2 minutes if it's a 2 minutes vocal file or whatever, if I want to start, modifying this in Melodyne. So this makes life easy and a lot faster from a workflow point of view. And as said, many already support this, but Ableton doesn't, actually Bitwig doesn't, Luna doesn't. And there has been some glitches also with the latest version with Logic Pro not supporting it. But this is a pretty awesome when you are doing a lot of audio editing, specifically vocal editing, is that you don't need to kind of play around with it, but you just throw in the basically, the ability to use the plugin here. And then of course you can get rid of it if you don't need it, but then if you want to use it, then you just press, the keyboard shortcut, and voila, you have the audio immediately ready for editing. And this is what ARA means in practice from a workflow point of view. Okay, so those were my two major picks regarding on Ableton, that what it is missing in my eyes from a workflow point of view, and what would make actually things a lot better in Ableton Live if they would implement this into it. Of course, you can have your own opinion, and happy to hear those down below. Let's get into the next digital audio workstation. Okay, let's look into Universal Audio Luna. And Luna has been catching up very well on different features and has become a pretty solid digital audio workstation. It also supports Windows and Mac, so you have both platforms supported. But what is the biggest minus in my eyes in Luna is pretty much this. To edit this in a proper way, and they actually do have a keyboard mapping, and I just went and changed to use and tested it for live. But let's go to the default Luna as that's something that I have used. So if I press E, I can now edit. With E, I can go into the edit mode, but this is pretty basic. This is very bulky, and this is actually even worse than in Pro Tools, but we'll get to that. But this is one of the big minus. And then of course also the ARA support is lagging here. So in Luna, I think those are the two main things, but you have quite a lot of features already in it, considering its age. And then there are even more advanced features that they have just now kind of advertised also in a sense that, you know, what they have a voice control of it, so you can control the recording start and stop with voice. And then they have some smart detection of tracks so that it can basically go and rename things. So a lot of good improvements, but it's still lacking like a proper MIDI editor. This is pretty bulky and basics. Of course it works, but you know, when you compare that to the other digital audio workstations, I would say it's a no-go. And then the ARA support as also in Ableton Live. Okay, regarding on Studio One, it is actually pretty feature rich. It also now actually has the scratch pad, and you can actually also have the, how they call it, is a kind of a launcher, so you can have a synchronous way or asynchronous way of creating ideas and music. So that used to be kind of one thing that I was missing from Studio One. Anyway, they have a pretty comprehensive set of features. One thing that could be is that the learning curve can be a bit challenging. And in my eyes, I would like to have this basically this view on the left-hand side. So the browser is in my eyes one of the kind of challenging parts, even though it's nice to navigate. And if you use their own keyboards like Atom, SQ or something, then you can from there you can quite nicely go and pick up instruments from the browser, also loops. So in that sense, I think that in my eyes, two kind of things in Studio One are the fact that the learning curve is a bit challenging for it, even though if you have used a different other digital audio workstations in past, you can get along with it quite easily. And the second thing is the browser. I think the browser could be better. And searching from browser is something that is not that convenient. However, if you are adding here a plugin, you can easily search like the plugin that you are LA2A, for example, you wanna use. So there are quite many good things in Studio One. So from a feature point of view, usability point of view, it's I think I see the biggest challenge is there, but it is definitely one of the top notch from the feature point of view. Okay, so next Logic Pro. Logic Pro is also quite comprehensive when it comes to features. But then also one could say that, and of course it's kind of obvious, the Logic Pro is done and supported by Apple, so it doesn't run on Windows. So if you would like to kind of do projects with other people who are having a Windows workstations or laptops, they can't use Logic, they need to use something else, and then you need to use stems. So that is one of the, I think, challenges with Logic Pro. Anyway, it's a good digital audio workstation. Another minus in my eyes is that it used to work with Melodyne, but now when they did a kind of architectural change with it, it doesn't support ARA anymore. I've been trying to figure out how to get it working, but no, it won't. So again, that's a drawback. It used to work with Melodyne, you had ARA, and it was kind of fast of editing vocals. But now in order to do that, you actually need to then go and record the audio here, so it gets recorded, and then you can start working with it. Other than that, it has quite a lot of features. Stem separation actually also got improved. And then one thing actually that has been brought up with few is the kind of integration with Splice. That's not yet here, but again, of course, you can bring in the Splice plugin and use it in that way. So in a way that's not a big minus, but the biggest minus is like, I think that if you collaborate with others, this doesn't run on Windows. so they can't use your projects on a Windows machine. And then and the second one was that there was an ARA support, but there isn't anymore. Other than that, it's a pretty feature-rich digital audio workstation in my eyes, and has a lot of features. Okay, let's look into Pro Tools. No, Pro Tools is definitely kind of the industry standard, if one can say so. It's used a lot of studios and composers and so on and so forth. However, I think the biggest minus in my eyes is this one. The editor editor is pretty basic and clunky, and in a way, of course, you can do things with it, but still, it's kind of a bit challenging in my eyes, and needs an overhaul. They have brought in tools that you can actually bring in different type of MIDI plugins. So they have added a lot through the partnerships with different type of ARP MIDI generators or different other tools that help you to create MIDI and MIDI patterns, ARP patterns, and things like that. So they have done a lot, but they haven't actually fixed the root cause, which is basically this editor, that it's not the best on the market regarding on MIDI editing. If you compare it to the like Ableton Live or Studio One or Cubase from its usability point of view and functionality point of view. So that's one of the things that I kind of feel that Studio One is kind of lacking behind compared to the different other digital audio workstation. Another one is that I would say that in my eyes is that they did introduce this sketch where you can also do kind of things in let's do that in a non-linear fashion. So you can basically build things from clip and do MIDI clips and audio clips and so on and so forth. However, the instruments that you can use here is basically very limited, so you can't really much do here. You have the basic, play cell, you have pianos and things, but you can't bring any third-party plugins here. You can't bring any external synthesizers or whatnot, so it's very limited. And yeah, I think that's something at least what you have seen, like other digital audio workstations supporting. Like the latest one was Studio One to bring a non-linear way of working with music files. You have that in Logic Pro X, Ableton, Bitwig. You have that now in Studio One as well, but then there are a few others that are still missing it. Anyway, it's a very feature-rich digital audio workstation used by many studios, kind of an industry standard, but it's also quite expensive. Some complain that it's a bit expensive, which is in a way true, but then thinking that it also has a lot in it, as others, of course. So price might be adjustable, but it also might be that it's too pricey in some opinions. Anyway, I do use it for mixing and mastering for certain projects that I have people that are working with Pro Tools, so it's easy for me to bring those in and then work on those. But these are the two things that, from my eyes, Pro Tools is missing: a kind of a proper MIDI editor and then asynchronous way of working with your project, like properly. It helps creating ideas, but it's not similar as in others. Okay, let's look into Cubase. Cubase is also one of those that is extremely feature rich, and of course you can you have all kind of features that you can bring in in basically in Cubase. So that's pretty good. Like for example, Melodyne extension and all that. And ARA support. So from a feature point of view, it's pretty extensive, and I've done projects with it. So in order to kind of also realize that how it works in general, in a way, I think the two main things for me is that I think the browser could be better. I don't feel it intuitive. It's a kind of a bit clunky to search things here. Of course, again here, like also if you go into the mix console and you want to bring in plugin here, you can search it easily. So if you want to bring a compressor, this is actually good and it's fast. So you can easily find things around, but the browser itself is kind of a bit challenging in my eyes to navigate with files and others. So this could be an area of improvement, at least from my point of view. A second thing with Cubase is that it doesn't support a non-linear working or ways of working. So you only work from left to right. So you kind of do it with the song and you kind of work your way from there, but you can't really create kind of blocks like in Ableton Live or in Bitwig or nowadays in Studio One as well, or Logic Pro, so that you could kind of build and sketch your stuff in a board, and then once you are happy to bring that into your arrangement. But that's of course also like people work in different ways. Someone works in linear fashion, others work in a non-linear fashion, and there is no right and wrong with that one. But at least for me, that's something that I'm missing from Cubase. Other than that, I think the biggest minus is from my point of view is that the browser and that the functionality of that, and then secondly, the missing of non-linear way of working. Other than that, it's a pretty awesome digital audio workstation, as all of them are. So they all have certain capabilities, and then they lack certain other capabilities. But in general, all these are pretty good. Of course, it depends also on your workflow. What do you do and how do you do it? So there are always those who think that certain digital audio workstations are better for their workflow, and they are right. So as I have said in the beginning, that the best digital audio workstation is the one that you know best, and that works for you way of creating music. Anyway, so that concludes the Cubase session. Okay, let's look into Reason. Reason has a pretty own way of doing things, and also like the way it works. So you have basically a sequencer where you do your song, and then you have your rack where you have your devices, and then if you press a tab, you can go and actually do audio routing here with the cables. So you can actually work with the cables and cabling, which is kind of nice because it gives you the feeling of old-fashioned way of working, in that sense that you don't do digital routing, but you are actually doing with the patch cables, you are patching things in. So it kind of brings in this kind of old type of fashion flavor. It has actually a lot of like interesting instruments, effects, utilities, and players that makes creating song ideas quite straightforward. So in that sense, it's a pretty interesting digital audio workstation. However, it also lacks the things that that basically are similar to the few others. So for example, if I go here, the editor has been approved, but the MIDI editing has been improved, but it's still kind of not maybe on the par with others in that respect. It's not bad. It's not, I think, on the level of Luna or so, but it's definitely it's something to improve. and get it better in that respect. So good thing with this, it also has a drum editor, so you can basically then use also drum editing here, and it maps it into the, you know, the kick and snare lanes, so you don't get all the keyboard when you are using drum editor. Anyway, I think that is one of the biggest minus. Another one is that also it doesn't support ARA, so that is one thing that I do see, that, you know, ARA support is missing from Reason, and the MIDI editing could be better. Another thing that what I also feel and in my eyes is that a lot of these new controllers like Softube Console 1, Fader and Channel, or even UF8 work nicely with other digital audio workstations, but they are lacking support for Reason. So Reason is lacking a support on the advanced MIDI controllers. I did a video regarding on the MK, the native complete control keyboard, that it can be integrated when you do some work and you find these certain patches and you run it with it, but still it's a bit lacking behind of support on the advanced MIDI controllers that have been brought to the market. Yeah, so that's basically concludes the thing with Reason, and in my eyes the biggest challenges with it is the kind of MIDI editor, lack of ARA support, and then lack of advanced MIDI controllers. Yeah. Okay, so then we have left Bitwig, and I'm actually running the beta 6 version, so there is a lot of new features coming into it. Anyway, I think still some features could be improved when it comes to MIDI editing, for example, but this is actually pretty good MIDI editor in general, and they have done a lot of improvements in the workflow regarding on the automation and MIDI editing, and then you can like multiple edit MIDI clips. So a lot of good features coming in with the 6 version. However, I think in my eyes, again, like one thing that I would have included is to support the ARA. So for Melodyne to get an direct access to your audio files, and specifically for vocal files. So if I would like to now work with you know, this song like, and vocal specifically, and I would like to bring in Melodyne. I need to spell it right. So I can of course use Melodyne, but I can't use ARA with it. So I have the same problem that with few others, that I need to record it into here in order to start working. So it will take me time. So if it's a 2-minute song and 2-minute vocal, I need to kind of wait 2 minutes to get recorded and stored here, and then I can start working with my vocal files or any files that I would like to use Melodyne with. And same with the other ARA supported plugins like Vocaline and few others that are there, that makes a workflow faster. Then another part in my eyes and in my way, like my thinking, is that this is pretty comprehensive. Basically the browser, but again, I would rather have it on the left hand side, and then these are of course things that you know, relate to, you know, taste and ways of working, and then also the, you know, way to navigate here is kind of like bit clunky in my eyes. So I can of course go and see the creators and so on and so forth, but there is a lot of things like who is he, like why would I look into that? Or if I go into the devices, then again I I kind of can't easily find things that I'm looking for. So from the outset, it's a bit of a like downer for me working with the library in general. So like from my workflow point of view and my point of view, things that I would improve is the browser in Bitwig, and then the ARA support. I would bring that in. Other than that, it's a pretty awesome digital audio workstation. I have done a few projects with it just to get the flavor and taste of it and see that how it would work with my workflow. Also did a video regarding on that, about the version 6, and then maybe something that you might consider on top, like MIDI controllers that you can use Ableton push with it and things like that. But yeah, those are the downers from my side, are like the browser and then the lack of ARA support. Okay. All right, so that concludes the review of different digital audio workstations, and in my point of view, what is kind of missing in each and every. So there is no perfect digital audio workstation. The one that you use is the best for you. So changing it might not help. And if you are getting used to into something, you might want to stick into it and go deeper on its capabilities. They all do the same thing. Of course, there are now a lot of debate also that which digital audio workstations sound better. Then there are comparisons of that actually they are not that different. But then if you start using their plugins, then they might differ a bit. But if you use them raw, they all do the same thing. They kind of, end of the day, you have a song that you can distribute. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and let me know also that what are you missing in these digital audio workstations in comment below. I'm happy to hear and learn what are your thoughts from your workflow point of view. What is in your eyes that the digital audio workstation is missing. Please add some comments. I'm happy to see and what are your thoughts. These were my thoughts. Hopefully you liked the video. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for the channel. Bye now.